Good day. My name is Ana Maydi Caballes, and together with my group mates, Mr. Christian Bautista, Ms. Ross Ancagatin, and Mr. Rajan Kagimbaga, we are going to present the three-dimensional art, which is the sculpture and architecture. Sculpture comes from the Latin word sculpere, which means to carve. It refers to the creation of three-dimensional figures, form designs from a single black mass of materials. During the 20th century, the definition of sculpture has widened a great deal and has become an ever-expanding art form that is constantly evolving and redefining itself. But what exactly is sculpture? Sculpture is basically defined as a three-dimensional form constructed to represent a natural or imaginary shape. It is the branch of the visual arts that operates in three dimensions, and it is the most enduring and arguably the greatest form of fine art known to man. Sculpture has played a major role in the evolution of Western culture. Its history and stylistic development are those of Western art itself. It is a key indicator of the cultural achievements of classical antiquity and become an important influence on the development of Renaissance art in Italy. Together with architecture, it was the principal form of monumental religious art which for centuries was the driving force of European civilization. Even today, although continuously evolving, sculpture is still the leading method of expressing and commemorating both historical figures and events. Sculptors use additive and subtractive processes to create sculptures. Additive means to bring materials together, while subtractive means to take away from the base material or cutting away unwanted materials. There are four main techniques that exist in sculpting, and that is carving, assembling, modeling, and casting. However, as the developments of new sculptural tools and technology continues, fabrication technique came to place. What happens when you take a large stone or a piece of timber and turn it into a masterpiece? Carving, that's what it is. Carving is a subtractive sculpting technique in which the sculptor chips away from the chosen material. Carving can be used on a variety of materials, and traditionally, stone and wood were the most common materials because they were readily available and extremely durable. Sculptors use chisels, mallets, knives, sanding sheets, and other sharp tools to carve away materials until the artist realized their visions.
What is casting? Casting sculptures that are cast are made from a material that is melted down, usually metal, that is then poured into a mold. Many sculptures are produced by the artist modeling a form, normally in clay, wax, or plaster. This is then used to create a mold to cast from. One traditional method of bronze casting frequently used today is the lost wax process. Casting material are usually metal but can be various called setting material that cure after mixing two or more components together. Modeling. What is modeling? Modeling is an additive process. This means a soft material is worked with the artist to build up a shape or form rather than scraping or material away as in carving. It is a method that can be additive and subtractive. The artist uses modeling to build up a form with clay, plaster, or other soft material that can be pushed, pulled, pinched, or poured into place. Although modeling is a primary and additive process, artists do remove material in the process. Modeling a form is often a preliminary step in the casting method.
And to continue the topic, assemblage is a collection or gathering of things or people. It is also defined as an artistic form or medium usually created on a defined substrate that consists of three-dimensional elements projecting out of substrate. And assemblage in art, work produced by the incorporation of everyday objects into composition. Although each non-art object, such as a piece of rope or a newspaper, it acquires aesthetic or symbolic meaning within the context of the whole work. It may um, retain something of its original identity. And also, the term assemblage, as coined by the artist Jean Dubuffet, is in the 1950s, may refer to both planar and three-dimensional constructions. So here we have the examples of assemblage. As you can see in the first picture, it is a girl, and it was made up of materials that is being gathered or collected by the artist to form this particular subject, which is the girl. Also, we have here the another two examples. It was also made up of materials that is being collected and gathered by the artist. Next is the fabrication. Fabrication, it is defined as an additive process of joining together materials by stapling, nailing, fastening, soldering, and welding. It also describes the process or service of producing large or technically difficult arts through entities and resources beyond an individual artist. So we have here the examples of fabrication. So as you can see in the first picture, the material that is being used is the metal. So I guess it is the kabilya kung sa to ang term, and the artwork was made through welding. And also to this second picture, I guess it is metal also, and through welding gihapon ay lang gigamit sa pag-form ani nga mga object or yes, artwork. And we have here the materials of sculpture. So as we all know that sculpture is the branch of the visual arts that operates in three dimensions. It is one of the plastic arts, durable sculptural processes originally used carving and modeling in stone, metal, ceramics, wood, and other materials. But since modernism, there has been an almost complete freedom of materials and processes. A wide variety of materials may be worked by removal, such as carving, assembled by welding or modeling, or mold or cast. So, the materials of sculpture, we have here the wood. First, the commonly is the wood june, and second is the granite, marble, basalt, jade, porcelain, and plasters, and lastly the glass.
Hello, my name is Rosanne Gomez Cagatin, and today I will be presenting architecture. It is the art and technique of designing and building, whereas employed to fulfill both practical and expressive requirements, thus serves as both utilitarian and aesthetic ends. Then certainly we have its basic structures. To start with, the post and lintel. The vertical element is called the post, then the horizontal element is called the lintel. It is basically a simple form of construction involving posts carrying horizontal beams or lintels. I'm sure that ancient Greek or ancient Egyptian was of this type of architecture using stone. For instance, the Stonehenge in England greatly influences the architecture now. Similarly, the UP Diliman Quezon Hall in the Philippines. Also, we have the arches. They are curved structural form that carries loads around an opening, transferring around the profile of the arch into abutments, jambs, or piers on either side. We have here the example of the Colosseum in Rome as well as the Manila Cathedral. Notice that they are very compressive, stabilized by the force of the gravity acting on their weight to hold them in compression. This makes them very stable and very efficient, capable of larger spans and supporting greater loads than horizontal beams. Meanwhile, the cantilever is a beam supported at one end and carrying a load at the other end or distributed along the unsupported portion. The upper half of the thickness of a beam is subjected to tensile stress, tending to elongate the fibers, and the lower half to compressive stress, tending to crush them, just like the example of this house and extensively in bridges. However, the bearing wall has two types: the load bearing, which supports the weight of the floors and roofs, then the non-bearing, which at most support its own weight. This allowed the structures to maintain an open interior space, transferring more weight to the buttresses instead to the central bearing wall. And the Notre Dame Cathedral is an example, but we can also find a resemblance here in the Philippines, like the Bahay na Bato. Lastly, the skeleton frame. It is a frame structure used for the construction of a multi-story building. It incorporates a network system of columns and connecting beams, which supports the building's interior floors and exterior walls that carries all the loads to the foundation. And of course, how do we build without the materials? Here's the commonly used material in architecture. First, we have bricks. They are not only recyclable but also high resistant to threats such as fire, wind, and moisture. And also, they present a great ease of use, low cost, and high versatility in terms of sizes, shapes, colors, and textures. Also, cement is extensively used in buildings, roads, dams, bridges. It has a wide range of structural application down to drains and pipes. It is a composite material consisting mainly of Portland cement, water, and aggregate sand, gravel, and rock. Another material is concrete. It refers to the uniformity of materials, forming, placing, and finishing that is frequently cast in a mold and has a pattern on the surface. While the sand is an important ingredient in most construction projects, as it can be mixed with lime or cement to create a high-quality mortar for plaster and for joining bricks or stones. Reinforcement refers to bars, wires, strands, or other slender elements embedded in a matrix such that they act together to resist forces. Then glass provides access to natural light, options for color customization, and the ability to blend interiors with exteriors. It kept homes and offices cool in the summer and warm in the winter, and saves energy on heating and air conditioning. And this is also recyclable. Once the old material is replaced, the old material can be broken down and be reformed into a new glass product. Plastics are low conductors of heat, thus they are used as insulation materials for green building concepts. They are now used in thermal insulation, carpet, piping, and door frames. Woods have many ways to be used in a building or as an embellishment of a structure. An example would be timber. It blends effortlessly into almost any natural landscape, although it matures with time if untreated, but it can also be stained, oiled, or painted for striking effects. Tiles are manufactured furnishing materials commonly used to cover internal walls, ceilings, and floors. They can be simple, functional, decorative, and elaborated, such as mosaic. It can be manufactured from a wide range of substances such as glass, stones, ceramic, porcelain, etc. Then, who builds? They are called the architects, in which we have several types. First, we have the residential architects. They design buildings that will be used as residences or where people can live. This includes simple family homes, condominiums, apartment buildings, or even townhouses. There are also commercial architects. They design buildings with a commercial purpose, for example, schools, museums, or any type of building that is not for living or a residential home. Then landscape architects design the making of specific kinds of places outdoors. Some of it are parks dedicated to the design of a healthy environment, communities, and the safety of people. However, interior design architects enhance the interior of a building to achieve a healthier and aesthetically pleasing environment for people using the space. Upon the making of the design, first we have to follow some stages. We have to consider these questions, such as what is the project all about, or who is it for? Who are you building? Is he a bachelor? A married man? Then, while doing that, we can also research about the geographical history or the cultural history of the area. Then we may proceed to develop the main idea of the project. Well, it's going to have a modern and sleek style, a rustic vibe. And after that, we can start to space plan and make some jobs for it. Also, there will be finishes and materials that will include many stone samples. And lastly, we have to prepare the computer-aided drawing or the CAD drawing, as well as the 3D visuals of the layout. On the other hand, there are urban design architects. They are concerned with the arrangement, appearance, and function of the suburbs, towns, and cities. It is both a process and an outcome of creating localities in which people live, engage with each other, and engage around the physical place around them. In relation to that, there are also green design architects. They attempt to safeguard air, water, and earth by choosing eco-friendly building materials and construction practices. In contrast, industrial architects design in the industrial sector. It is constructed for the purpose of efficiently and safely processing of raw materials into new products, including power plants, distilleries, breweries, and manufacturing facilities, grains, and refineries. Certainly, industrial design tends to prioritize functionality and worker safety over aesthetically pleasing interior design.